I can't do it. This just isn't right. I don't know what I'm going to do. I can't kill myself. It just isn't right. Or if I do kill myself, I'm going to have to do it in some other way. I can't do it this way.
Okay, well, there's no pressure. I'm just here to document whatever it is you decide to do.
Part of my ghosthood regards a condition I have been diagnosed with called narcissistic personality disorder. I have here a prepared statement to read to help everyone understand exactly why I would commit suicide. It reads as follows. I am the ghost man. Perhaps I am the ghost man because I'm alive but dead, all at the same time. People see me, I see the faint glimmer of recognition in their eyes, but then they pretend that I'm not really there. They look at me the way the living look upon the dead, and assuredly I am dead, with a certain amount of apprehension and a smug self-satisfaction at being alive. How I hate these people. Although I have a physical body, there is also something very unsubstantial about me. I am a little bit wispy. Things happen around me, but not really to me. I feel detached. I'm in this world, but not of it. No one can see me but a few sensitives I call friends. Hiding behind the camera is Kevorkian. Why is he Mr. Kevorkian? Because he is too chicken shit to let anyone know who he really is. In fact, I don't think he knows himself. It reminds me of the tribe of headhunters that won't allow themselves to be photographed for fear of having their souls stolen. Dr. Kevorkian, Mr. Kevorkian, has no soul, and I think he keeps looking through his camera, hoping to find one that he can steal. Are you shooting?
Yeah.
You are?
Yeah.
Well, you gotta tell me when you're gonna start to shoot so I can talk.
Okay.
I am a self-professed narcissist.
What do you have? What's your problem?
Narcissistic personality disorder. Will we be able to see this?
Sure.
And my problem in life is that I can't, it's like being in a cage. And it's gruesome. Because the hardest thing about it is you're thinking that other people see you as being selfish and self-centered and thinking only of yourself. You know, just exactly what society makes, just exactly what society will take that and make it into a pariah. Society wants nothing to do with selfish people. That is for sure. The thing is that the narcissist loves to look at himself. He has a collection of photographs taken of himself only, regarding which he will spend hours and hours just devouring his attention on these photographs. And he's noting all of the different complexity having to do with who he is as a person, and he's really feeling good. He gets high. It's kind of like a drug. Do you know?
All right. So, what about your narcissistic thing there? You want to talk a little bit more about that?
Well, narcissism is a scourge. It's a scourge to humanity. Instead of you having yourself represent Christ, You are representing the Antichrist. You are the scourge of the earth.
So, how about narcissism and the fact that you want to make a film about you killing yourself? Do you think that has anything to do with it?
Yeah, it's got a lot to do with it.
You can't.
Fact of the matter is, I don't want to kill myself. However, I do. And the part of me that wants to kill myself is mad to live, mad to talk, and mad to be saved. Now you take those three, you compile those three different factors into your intellect, and sooner or later you're going to figure out either the way to do it, the way to live, and the way to talk and to be saved, or you're not. And if you don't figure out how to do it, you find yourself in a position where you are the only person in the world. Nobody cares about you. You don't care about yourself anymore. And the fact of the matter is, you'd rather be dead. Standing on the edge of death is a very precarious position. You don't know what you're going to do. There are pills on your counter. You got 50 of them. You've counted them. There are 50. There are no left. In other words, you either take your life or you don't. And frankly, on 4 occasions, I have tried to take my own life peacefully. Not to be influenced by other people or other people's politics, other people's personalities. You're just interested in talking about who you are as a person. You're making a statement. You might say it's a political statement. It says something about who you are in the moment, right now, that's going to be recorded for all of history. Make no bones about it. Once you're gone, you're gone. However, if you have had something to say in your death that you could not say when you were alive, perhaps you're better off. The fact of the matter is, you can't commit a perfect suicide, because perfection is an illusion. So then you have to figure on how many people can you take with you when you go. You go into a McDonald's restaurant, for instance. You can take 50 people with you, probably. Maybe more. The whole thing becomes enticing. You have this thing in your hands where you can actually take 50 people or more in your own message to society about what it means actually to be dead. Now, I'll tell you what it means to be dead. To be dead means not to have any more options before you.
Do you feel like your life as it is now, you don't have very many options?
Well, that's right. That's right.
So that's why you choose the option of death.
Yes.
Because it's, to you, it's one and the same.
Yes. Who knows?
You're tippy-toeing on the edge of death. What is it? Does it make you think any more clearly about your life, or do you think, about things that have happened to you? Do you look back on your life, and does it bring anything in sharper focus? Or?
Well, the only thing that's in sharp focus is the summer river as it cascades over the mountain. And you see it, and you believe in it, yet you cannot still believe in it because of its utter beauty. I'm just talking about the experience of knowing that you are alive. And what does that mean to you?
Does that feel good sometimes? Does that still feel good to you? To know that you're alive?
Well, it means everything in the world.
Yeah. So you still enjoy that. Is the problem that feeling doesn't come along often enough, or?
Yes. Yes, precisely.
Mostly you just feel dead and kind of
Yes.
not really.
Kind of insignificant.
Yeah. Do you think it's narcissism to want to feel not insignificant? You want to feel significant. Do you think that's narcissism? Or is that just, what every human being wants anyway?
No, it's a basic life force. Narcissism is healthy up until it's about age 17. If, however, you become stuck at age 17, then you're in a shitload of trouble. Because what happens is you no longer get to progress in the course of your own natural life. At which point you don't know what to do. Nobody's talking to you. Nobody is taking an interest in you. It's hell.
So, narcissism, like most religions, advise people to take an interest in other people and kind of live your life vicariously, I guess, through other people. Is that something you wanted to do but weren't able, or just you never?
Yes, you have failed. You have failed at being a normal human being.
You just can't do that?
You can't do it as much as you want to because you can't do it. So, making this film has made me happy because it's giving me the chance to open the drawer, having to do with what goes on in the mind of a man who wants to not only kill himself, but take 50 other people with him. Because actually, you were going to ask a question?
Yeah. What about that 50 other people? Were you kind of angry that day? Because it just seemed like kind of out of character. I mean...
Really?
Yeah. Just the fact that You want to take
Well,
out
how many people?
50 people. I mean, I'm just saying, it just seemed out of character that you would just want to take out random people. I mean, I could see maybe you might have something against,
Commercialism.
certain people or something.
Capitalism.
Right, but just 50 people in a McDonald's.
Well,
I mean, so they like Big Macs.
who doesn't? The time of man to make something of himself first came about with the end of the age of the Neanderthal man. That's when he had to put his two heads together, form a community, and come to the point where no more would the ice age be a problem. You had to melt those polar caps so that all the water flooding down into the valley would be yours to drink. You can go that far back in time. What happens in a community or a society like that is that you've got one camper who is not happy. And he's got, let's just say 50, or he's got 150 people he's got to be in communion with to make the point that we are going to survive as a people. This is right after the Neanderthal man. Humanity is just taking its first steps. And so you got one very unhappy camper. What's he going to do? Take a club and beat another human being over the head with it to the point of death? Or is he going to go out by himself, become an outcast, a throwaway, someone who's not going to be pulling up the weeds in spring? And you just have got to realize that there comes a time when, in the time of man, in the time of man becoming, when you've got someone who's very, very bitter. What is he going to do? Is he going to kill somebody else and then kill himself at the same time to make the point that, it's just not fair the way you're slicing the pie? One man has 3 beautiful women to himself. The man who is the expatriate, he doesn't have anybody. He's living out in a wooded shelter on the edge of the society. And how can it be that that's a fair setup? I don't think it's fair at all. So he's in a bind. This bastard is in a bind. And what's he going to do? He's 49 years old, which happens to be my age. And he's trying to decide for himself, what am I going to do with the rest of my life when so many people have abandoned me? When I was the one pulling the weeds in the spring in the first place, when I was 10 years old with muddy feet, and the rest of the rats are running around sowing reaping all of my sowing. Well, then it gets to be a capitalist economy. You got the one in the corner with his own shop selling the goods. And then you got the working class hero, the one who's thinking about killing himself. You've got him over in the corner there doing all of the fucking work.
Do you think you have to be schizophrenic to be a poet?
Probably. I know what you're saying. You're poking fun at me.
Just a little bit.
As to the bombing incident itself, I have procured a copy of the Anarchist Cookbook and have educated myself in terms of how to make big-time explosives, so that not only will I be killed, but the whole room full of people will perish. And these explosives are small enough, compact enough, that they will fit easily inside my vest.
Have you tested the explosives?
Yes, we've done testings, myself and a friend of mine. Well, Jack Kerouac had Neil Cassidy
the two of those kept each other out of trouble. And I kind of think that I'm doing a Jack Kerouac, a Kerouacian role by doing this film, because that's what it's all about to me, as far as the way I see it. Anyway, neither here nor there, but and it's like kind of like Kevorkian is asking me, not encouraging me, but asking me if I want to put myself to death. And so it's kind of like they're a team, because he's unsure about whether he wants to continue living. He's unsure about how his own social issues, whether he wants to blow people up. So it seems to me that you have to have a team there. You know, if you can get me sober, if you can help, if Jack Kevorkian can help Jack Kerouac get sober long enough to write the next great American novel, then I think everybody would be happy.
So why was it today at the John Edwards rally there you didn't blow yourself up when he was right there within a couple feet of you, and you could have gone down in history? And I thought that's what you wanted.
I didn't have the nerve. I was sitting there, I was shaking, my knees were trembling, my hands were trembling. I was prepared, I was ready to go in terms of my intellect. Everything was you know, straight ahead. But in terms of how I felt, I just sort of wilted. There's more to it than that. I don't mean to say that's all there was to it, because that's why we went there. And it just didn't, I wasn't able to pull it off. Maybe another time, maybe another candidate, maybe there's something about Edwards that I like.
Oh, so you liked what he had to say, so it's like you didn't really feel like pushing the button.
I like Edwards. I like Clinton. I like Edwards. I like Barack Obama. And I like McCain. And those guys I'm not sure I could take out. I think Hillary Clinton is very sexy. It'd be really hard for me to bring her life to an end. She's just like a goddess, and I have dubbed in my writing, she could be the Jackie Kennedy of the Nixon administration.
Nixon administration?
Yeah, what I mean, because it's so conservative now. It's like a Nixon administration is still in place. And then along comes Hillary Clinton, who'd be the Jackie Kennedy of the Nixon administration.
It's not making a lot of sense, but
What?
I kind of get the general drift anyway.
No, it's just a metaphor.
Yeah. So, how about Giuliani or Romney or one of those guys?
I hate those guys. Both of those guys. So tell me when.
Go ahead.
I've been thinking this over, the whole thing about what I intend to do. It's very interesting. In my own personal life, I have begun to come up with ways or techniques to help myself counter my gross, we'll call it my gross narcissism. The reason for having to do this is to help myself live more comfortably with other people. Because face it, you are always being confronted on one front or another. And I see a subtle transformation occurring in my life because of these measures that I have taken, having to do with simply including other people in my life, not for the sake of blowing them up necessarily, but having them in my life in a way that is productive and meaningful. And the whole thing about suicide bombing, to me, remains intriguing, and I do mean to carry it out when the time is right. I think right now there's a preliminary sort of time that will be the antecedent to the actual event. I want this on film so that it, for posterity's sake, and also to boost my ego, my narcissistic ego, I want this on film, courtesy of Dr. Kevorkian, to help to shape the ideas around why somebody would kill himself, as well as a lot of other people. There's not a lot more to say. I think that my intent is clear, and the details, the devil is in the details. It's getting these details worked out. Where is this going to occur? When is it going to occur? How many people is it going to involve, projected, and so on and so on. And recently, I acquired my vest, my suicide vest. And in the pockets, and I've also decided it's going to be at a political rally that this event takes place, because I want to take out one or another of the political candidates, preferably on the Republican side. This is bulging here, so to counter that, to camouflage the vest itself, I'm going to put this on over the vest. This button's up right here. And so on. And that way, it just looks like I'm kind of an overweight person, if you know what I mean. But, anyway, so that we know what we're doing ahead of time. This is my vest, and I'm going to have it electronically wired by a friend of mine, so that all I have to do is push a button and the whole thing goes off. So this is hot. No pun intended. So anyway, what do you think of that, Doctor?
Well, you said you didn't want to just go out quietly, and I guess if you follow through with this plan, I guess you won't go out quietly.
Well, I'm having a problem with my conscience in terms of taking other people. If it was just myself, that'd be one thing. But I don't know who these other people are going to be. These are going to be, most likely, because of the rallies I've attended, I already know, these are going to be good people. There's nothing wrong with these people. However, as I said early in the film, it's lonely to go out alone. And also, you're not making a big enough statement. If you take out 30, 40, 50 people with yourself, why, you're making history. You're making history. It's not been done, to my knowledge, on a grand scale like that by one person, except over in Iraq possibly. You know, if we're talking about taking out 60 people, I don't know that it's even been done that many people in Iraq, because there are only so many people. The person has to be situated right in the middle of a room full of people just milling around. And it's hard to get access that way, you know, because you're always being pushed to the edge. So somehow I'm going to have to get into the middle of a group of people and somehow also develop a hatred for these people, what they're about. So then the thing that comes next is, well, which candidate do you like the least? And as far as I'm concerned, why, I'd like to see Giuliani go first and Mitt Romney second, and to get them both together would be a bonus. So I've talked enough.
Yeah. So it's an interesting plan. So do you really think it's necessary to use violence in order to get your point across? Do you think you could
Well,
have the same impact without using violence?
Martin Luther King Jr. would argue no. However, Malcolm X was all for violence. And as far as I'm concerned, when push comes to shove, if you really want your voice to be heard, to be on the news, you know, like they didn't broadcast the March on Washington with Martin Luther King Jr., you know, like the moment it happened. I want this to interrupt all television programming. Such and such, with a suicide vest on, blew himself up in a room full of people, taking 65 casualties, including Rudy Giuliani, you know, something like that. I want this to interrupt all broadcasting. I want it to be like a really big fucking event. Excuse my language, but I want it to be a big event. I want it to be it's got to be the problem with doing it peacefully is you're not allowed to make the statement. The statement is what's important. If you get that across millions of people's minds at the same time, everybody's going to be talking about it. And I'm going to go out famous. I'll be famous forever, just like Lee Harvey Oswald. You know? It's the same kind of thing. It was that dramatic that Lee Harvey Oswald shot Kennedy, and I do think it was a conspiracy, but he did most of the shooting. And, you know, Walter Cronkite was on the news taking his glasses off. Let me know.
Okay.
Yeah, with Martin Luther King Jr., the March on Washington, they didn't stop broadcast news for that. But when John F. Kennedy was assassinated, there was Walter Cronkite taking his eyeglasses off because he was so tearful. You want it to have that kind of impact, to hit millions of people's minds at the same time that something really, really dreadful has happened. Something that it's a danger to our own country's, you know, it's our own country's well-being. You know, if this maniac could do it, who knows how many other maniacs are going to try to do the same thing?
Here's a question for you, though. All right, you feel like people dehumanize you; they don't treat you with dignity, but when you do, after you do this, they're going to look at you as more of a monster, aren't they? Instead of, you know, is that really what you want?
Well, face it, I'm going to be looked upon as a monster one way or the other. Now, if I do this suicide bombing, people are going to look at me not just as a monster, but as a monster to be reckoned with. The monster in their own midst. Because who knows when the next suicide bomber, encouraged by my act, is going to come along and blow them up. So the whole question of monsterhood, you transcend that, and you're making the bigger point, which is, as was said on in the movie Network, I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore. You're going to infuse the society or the community with the notion that
they can't treat people the way they treat them, or
well, I'm tired of being treated the way I've been treated. I've been looked down, I've been spat upon, I've been walked on all my life, and I regard myself a good person. Now, this is a despicable act that I have in mind, but I am to the end of my rope with this whole friggin' thing. where either I have to do something, I'm 49 years old now, I have to do something that's meaningful to me personally. You know, I mean, I've tried to write books to get my point across. I found out that I'm not a good enough writer for any publishing house to publish me. So this is the next level that I'm going to take if I do it, you know. And still there's a question in my mind, because you're talking about good American people being at one of these rallies, and how do you justify, just because you're in a rage doesn't mean that they feel that way too, you know? As far as this act, this terrible act, having meaning in my life, I just want to say that all my time, all 49 years of my life, I have tried to live according to the Catholic faith. I have been a good Christian. I have treated my brother or my neighbor as I would want my neighbor to treat me. I mean, I've made a real religion out of it, you know. I've not struck back at my offender. I've offered the other cheek. I've been this way my whole life. Very seldom can anyone point at me and say, he did it. He's responsible for the crime or the sin. Very, very seldom. I'm just confessing this to you. I really feel deeply in my heart that I have been a good person. I've tried to be a good person all my life. Now, has that brought meaning into my life? No, because I think the Christian doctrine is nonsense when you come right down to it, because no one can prove for sure whether there's a God behind the Christianity. Maybe Christ was something that was just fabricated by poets back in the time of Christ, and they wrote the Gospels, and it's all a fiction. So I waver with my Christianity. But in terms of action, the way I treat my brother, I have always treated my brother, well, not always, but you know what I mean. Most of the time, I've treated my brother the way I'd want to be treated. And in terms of meaning, to do this despicable act, well, the meaning will be immeasurable, because I'm going to make history. My narcissistic ego will be more than satisfied. I'll know exactly what I'm doing. I'll have the button in my hand. I'll be the one to pull the trigger. And nobody is going to call the punches anymore except for me at that moment. And I just as soon blow up the whole fucking country, to tell you the truth. This whole country, it's despicable with its runaway materialism and the capitalism and all the rest of it. I have just had it with this country. And this is supposed to be the best country in the world? What are we doing over in Iraq? Why are we there? We're there for oil, for Christ's sake. Why is it we're killing innocent life? All those Iraqi citizens who have died.
Okay, I was just wondering, what exactly is the point that you're trying to get across to people? What do you hope to accomplish by killing all these people?
What I hope to accomplish by killing as many people as I can is a in your face measure. It's like, you've put me through hell my whole life. The only people who ever helped me unconditionally were my parents, who are dead now, and so I don't have them to rely upon anymore. No one else unconditionally has been of help to me. So the whole point to the whole thing is, like, it's in your face with this. This is a real blow to the nation. This is not just to a small community of people living in Boscawen, New Hampshire. This is to a whole nation. You did this to me. Now take it back. See how you like it. See what you think about being treated like a piece of shit. I've been treated like shit my whole life. I've been dodging and ducking and just getting out of the way of all the shit that's come my way. And I don't want to. I'm getting old now, I'll probably get cancer soon from smoking cigarettes. I don't care about my life. I need to make a statement, and that statement has to be clear. It's in your face. You treated me like shit, now it's your turn. I'd say that.
I got him.
Prophet is beyond rebuke except in his own village. Alright. Capitalist punishment. Every good boy deserves fudge. But for every winner, there must also be a loser. Prison walls the man contain, but not the ghost within. Judge not, and you will not be judged. Judge wrong, and risk the wrath of someone much more worthy. Right or wrong, our excrement flows together through the sewers of America. Lately I've been having this recurring dream of this person who has met me and who knows me, and I've never met him in my life. It goes on and on, this dream. I don't know what else to say. Which is that I feel oppressed. I don't think I can be myself in this society without getting locked up in a mental hospital or a prison.
Okay.
I have to take a break. What I've been through is narcissism revealed. What I mean by that, simply that you can have a nervous disorder in this life and yet not have it overtake you so completely that you lose your dignity. And narcissism will take you down that road. And who wants to go to where they have already been? So,
You think it's part of self-discovery?
Well, it's interesting that you point that out because I don't think of it as a self-discovery, but now that you mention it, you know, it's just sort of like something to play around with your thoughts. So, I'm feeling uncomfortable.